This video is proudly sponsored by my friends over at Mid-America Fence Supply. A few years ago, I did a video where I broke down the cost of a fence. How much money of the total cost goes where. Now, it's a good video, but it's a little out of date. It was pre-pandemic, so the numbers themselves are all off. Also, percentages have changed. And there were some questions on the difference between gross profit and net profit. Today's video is an update on the average cost of fence, an update on what the percentages look like, and maybe a better clarification on gross versus net profit. All that being said, let's dive into the numbers. All right, in 2022, the average residential fence at Ozark Fence Company, so we're located in Southwest Missouri, was $8,500. So I went and found a recent project close to the average. This project actually totaled $8,793.19. Pretty close to the average. So of that money, how much of it goes where? Well, first off, the biggest chunk of that money goes towards the materials. 47% in this case, $4,132.80 went to materials. Now, this particular fence was a wood fence. It was a cedar fence on steel posts. So it could have been the pickets, the rails, the posts, but also the nails, the screws, the concrete, the gate frames. Any sort of materials that went into this fence are in this number. The next number would be the labor. So labor was roughly 24% on this project, so $2,110.37. Now the labor number is not only the payroll, but also the company paid payroll expenses. That could be anything from employment taxes, it could be benefits, so think health insurance, 401k, that sort of thing. All that gets rolled into the payroll. So if we deduct those two numbers alone, that leaves us with $2,550.02. 29% of the total would be our gross profit. Now, in the last video, I didn't break out gross profit, net profit. I should have, I understand that. In that video, I stated we made 10% profit. And what you'll find is we're still pretty close to that. A lot of the comments called out the fact that 10% was too low. There's no way a company could only make that amount of money. There's a lot of people that said their companies made a lot more. 30% was thrown out a lot. And it got me to thinking, I think they thought I was referring to gross profit. So the top line number, the gross revenue, subtract the materials, subtract the labor, boom, there's your profit. So of this number, like I said, about 29% went to gross profit. Unfortunately, we're not done sending money away though. We're not left with 29% of the funds that are just left over for profit. We've got a few more bills to pay here. One of those, the big one, is gonna be overhead. It takes money to have a facility, to have a fabrication shop, to have the power available to weld the gates, to have a place to park and a place to lay down materials. It's the building insurance. It's also the labor to, say, weld the gates, the indirect labor, support labor. When someone calls Ozark Fence, there is a nice sounding lady on the other side of the phone. It's her wages. Those also go into overhead. In this case, we attribute 10% of the cost to overhead. So in this example, $879.32. There's also taxes that get paid at the end of the year. Now, taxes are going to be different for everyone. And understand that this tax number is an estimated number. We won't know till the end of the year how much money we're actually going to get taxed on, also how much depreciation we have, what kind of deductions we're looking at. We use 7% as a number. It's plus or minus where we are on a yearly basis historically. Sometimes we pay more, sometimes we pay less. 7% seems to be a good average. On this project, we set aside $615.53 to pay those future taxes. Now, when you take out all of these numbers, you're left with $1,055.17 for a net profit of 12%. A little bit better than the example we gave a few years ago when we were roughly at about 10%. Business has changed slightly. Real quick, guys, apologies, but are you tired of your suppliers running out of fencing materials right before your big job? You're gonna wanna check out Mid-America Fence Supply. I'm not saying they have the world's supply of fencing materials, but they've got a decent chunk of it. The reason I broke this down though is this is something that I try to explain to customers when they ask for a discount. When, say, they had received 3 different bids, one of the bids was a couple $1,000s less than our bid or a competing bid, or maybe they went online and they found a video, or they maybe found a blog post that said, you know, this is the number that fence should cost, which is kind of a wild thought that you can try to pick a blanket number for anywhere in the United States for any company. But for whatever reason, they think that this project should cost a couple $1,000s less, and so they ask for a discount. We try to explain that if everything goes perfectly on this job, that's roughly $8,800, at the end of the day, we're left with roughly $1,000 at the end of it. There's no way we could give a $2,000 discount on this project. And we also try to explain that profit is important in a business because it's what keeps us in business for years to come. It's how we maintain a lifetime warranty. If you'd like us to be around in future years when maybe you need it gate adjusted, we have to be able to make profit because, as any contractor will tell you, not every project goes perfectly according to plan. So we set some aside so that on the rainy days or the slow days, we're still able to pay bills. We're still able to pull from our profits to pay overhead or to pay payroll, you know, in winter months when things are slow. Think about it this way when asking for discounts is, can we go back and try to renegotiate prices on materials? Possibly, but if any discounts are gonna be found, they're not typically gonna be significant. Most wholesalers and retailers that we do business with are giving us the best numbers first because they know that we're comparing their numbers to 2 or 3 other sets of numbers. So they know that they need to get the best numbers first. There's not a lot that's gonna come off of that materials number. The labor number is set. We don't go back to our team members and ask them to work for less money because this project, you know, doesn't want to pay as much. It's not fair to them. They're gonna do the same work. They're gonna get paid what we agreed on previously. In that same vein, we can't renegotiate overhead. The utility numbers are set. Our loan payments are set. And in today's day and age with variable APRs, we're likely paying more today for this facility than we were paying a year ago. We're certainly not going to be able to go back to the bank and try and negotiate a lower rate, although I wish. And taxes, 100% non-negotiable. There is zero wiggle room when it comes to paying taxes. We simply can't negotiate that. There's no room to come off that number. The only number here that's left is profit. And as I said, the company needs to make profit to stay in business for years to come, to be available when the phone rings to send a crew out to adjust a gate, that sort of thing. So with all that being said, this is one particular example from one company. There are going to be a slew of different answers from different contractors. Their numbers are likely going to be different depending on what they can buy materials at, what they pay their team members, what their effective tax rate is. Everything is going to be the same. What I'm hoping to illustrate in today's video is the fact that at the end of the day, the net profit, the number that's left over at the bottom, probably isn't as big as you thought it was. Keep that in mind the next time you go to a contractor and ask for that discount. Until next time, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors, and I'll see you next time.